Hello and welcome to the That's So Craven podcast, your one-stop shop for all things Fulham. And we're here today it's after dark, ish. That's what we should rename it, I think, to after dark ish for summer, but then back to after dark for winter. But we're here to touch upon Everton. There's some new contract news. There's some transfer rumour mill is spinning out of control, as you expect as we come into the summer. There's a lot going on. But I can't do this all on my own. So here I am joined by, I would like to say now, one of my drinking buddies. Eases the pain. So Mark, welcome to After Dark and thank you for joining.
Oh, cheers, Skibby. Yes, I am indeed that drinking buddy, the old City Arms, a nice Fulham hangout. We've done a couple of sessions there. And because I was mocked mercilessly for drinking my beer out of a mug like a classy gent, I'll be drinking it straight from the bottle now. So there we go. Today's one is Staro Pramen. Pretty decent. So yeah, happy to be here. Wouldn't mind breezing over Everton, but sure, we can revisit it and then we'll talk about everything else because there's plenty to go on about. So let's get started.
I've got a very fun story about Staropramen, which I will just quickly tell. I drank Staropramen on the day that England got knocked out of the World Cup against Croatia in the semi-final. And I was, people just couldn't speak sense to me. I was just saying, they were like, well, they did this and that. And I'm like, nope, they're embarrassing. All this shit, blah, blah, blah. And from that day, it got to a joke of just, if you give Skibby Staropramen, he gets very angry. So I don't drink Staropramen anymore because of that one night where it was in Centre Parks and I fell off my bike and I was going, it's embarrassing. They're all embarrassing. They're all this, they're all that. So there you go. Staropramen. So go easy, Mark. It might make you angry. Mm-hmm. And trying to actually talk sense out of the rest of the group, we have our resident After Dark. We've got Mary Southgate / Townsend. How are we doing, Mary?
Hey.
Right?
Yeah, good, thanks. Loving the After Dark-ish part. I feel like that's quite a good little add-on. But yeah, no, I'm good. I feel like we keep talking about losses at the moment. Been 4 in 5 defeats, I think, which not to start negative, but we'll try and bring a positive spin to it though, always do, and it's good I can see people in the chat, so that's quite fun. But yeah, looking forward to chatting. There's quite a lot to talk about and fingers crossed we can get through some points at the bus stop club this weekend.
I miss the days where it was, if Mary's on the pod, it's a guaranteed win. I think that was something.
Yeah, what's happened to that?
Steve joined. There was this 100% record that Mary had. Every time she's on That's So Craven, Fulham would guarantee you win. But that has absolutely tanked, and I'm not blaming you, Mary. I think there's a lot more.
Oh, I'm happy to take some responsibility there.
But a lot of things out of our control. But no, I mean, how's things in general? I mean, start of GCSE season, right? That's got to be pretty busy.
The exams have started. It's a bit nervy, but they've started really well, actually. They've got into it and had a rounders game today, which was, I've got to love a bit of rounders. I don't know if you did it at school, but I love it. I mean, it wasn't very sunny today, so it wasn't really rounders weather, but we got a big win. We was losing and we came back, gave them a proper pep talk at half time. We got ahead to the game and we went and won the rounders match. So first one of the summer season. So I'm in good spirits at the moment.
Awesome. There you go. At least somebody's winning. So we'll take that as a moral victory for the podcast. But I have to ask, though, something completely unrelated. Do you get roped into being the moderator for the written exams, the way you have to walk up and down and make sure there's no cheating?
The invigilators. Yeah, we do for mocks. We're not allowed for the real GCSEs in case we gave them the answers, but for any mocks, so a few times a year. We've got year 10 mocks coming up, so I'll be doing the old walking up and down.
Man. I always used to hate that you'd always ask a question and then they'd be doing this whispering in your ear, and I don't know if you get sensory overload or it's just a weird thing for me, but
it's just a bit awkward, isn't it?
You're like, oh no, go away. I wish I didn't ask you now. But no, that was just a weird little thing in my head. But no, welcome to everyone in the chat. We've got Emma, Steve, Colm, and welcome in and thank you very much for joining us. ping us your questions. We love to answer things on the fly. So if you've got a thought that's itching to come out and you want to ask us, or even just an opinion yourself, drop it in the chat and we'll definitely pick it up, discuss it, or even answer it for you. So please do that. And before we go any further, we have a Discord. There is a lot of chat going on. Obviously, we talked about the summer rumour mill. It's absolutely flying. Fulham fan news. I don't know how he's tweeting as quickly as he is. I'm sure it's more than just one person, as we found out earlier in the season. But they are motoring on all the rumours, which we will touch upon later on. But if you want to get it firsthand, join the Discord and you can read it all in there. Righty-ho. Now all the normal stuff's kind of out of the way. I don't want to, but Everton. It was a really weird game where the first half we seemed to be quite comfortable and, you know, Raul gets a very decent goal and I don't think Everton even load a glove on us really. And then we just absolutely imploded in the second half. I mean, Mary, that second half, is that something you were expecting at half time, or did it come as a complete shock?
Well, before the game, no. During the first half an hour, no. I thought we started so well. Like our attacking presence and our like intent was so good. We just looked really fierce going forwards. And I thought this is such an exciting start to the game. And like you said, great first goal. I thought it was really well worked with the ball to ESR and then the way Jimenez like competed against two defenders to get that header, like really good desire to get that. And we're still on the upper hand at that point. I think Wilson had another shot from just outside the box. And then I was at that point, just before half time, I thought this is good, 1-0 up, we can push on. And then it obviously all changed with the goal. And at that point, I turned to my mum and was like, I think we might lose this game just because we know how it's gone recently. And it's just such a bad time to concede. It's really changes the psychology of it, the morale, and then it gives Everton such a boost and their fans such a boost. So, yeah, I mean, 30, 35, 40 minutes, I was feeling good. And then my thoughts moving into the second half completely changed after that goal, which I think could have been avoided. They got a throw in because of our lack of communication. I think it was between Tete and AP on that right hand side. Neither of them really went for the ball, and I don't know if that was just fatigue, maybe because it was near the end of the first half and fatigue happens. But neither of them went for that ball. It caused a bit of a confusion. They had a throw in, and then great long ball. Which on that, I don't feel like we have any players that have a long throw on them that are like threatening long throw. I could be wrong, but they did. And it was, I mean, that helped assist their deflected goal. But I don't know, do we have any long throwers? I can't think of any.
I mean, you're preaching to my dad is going to love you because he says whenever someone does a long throw against us, he's like, it is such a weapon to have that it just causes so much havoc and confusion. Why doesn't every team train that and have that in their arsenal? Like, I just don't think. I mean, the only one I can think of potentially would be, I don't know why, but Tete. I feel like he's got a decent throw, but not anything that can reach the box. But other than that, I can't think of anyone. But yeah, I just think that there's something in the off season where if you're a fullback, train it. Just get your arms done and just absolutely, like, do you remember Pierre Wome? What an absolute throw he used to have, where he used to like completely flex all the way backwards, almost would touch the ball onto the back of the pitch, as he would like flex like a deck chair and just absolutely launch it. But that was, I think that's it really. But I mean, Mark, we talked about the goal on half time. Very, very funnily, I in good old trying to teach Mike from Fulham Boston the ways of seeing a Premier League game in England. I had already gone for a beer around the 40th minute mark. I said, you watch the game, I'll get us a beer. And so I heard this little murmur. I was standing by the George Cohen statue, heard this little murmur, and I went, I think Everton have just scored. And sure enough, I checked it, and bloody hell, and then I asked around me like what happened to the goal, and they said, oh, it took like 3 deflections and went in. I think it was only 1 in the end, but it was a really ugly goal to concede, and boy was it ugly. I mean, what was going through your head as that sort of sunk past Leno? I think it came off Berger in the end.
Yeah, I mean, look, probably shouldn't mention this, but I will. The other podcast brought it up. We don't score ugly goals, and I wish we did. I think we've scored 1 deflection all season, and I can immediately think off the top of my head 3 deflections against us. Martinez on Lukic, Miolenko off of Berg, and then what's the other one? Oh man, it was just on the top of my. Was it Bournemouth? No, Villa. Villa scored 1 as well, right? So
yeah,
so many deflections because they just took a risk, and we always need to do something beautiful with the ball. We need to have a highlights reel goal before we can put it in the back of the net, and that's what frustrated me. It felt fortunate, but also felt like they kind of made their own fortune, and from there, like Mary said, I was pretty confident they were gonna really gain energy from that and push onwards. And the other goals as well. I mean, that as much credit as Leno has in the bank, and he has loads. He has single-handedly won matches for us, but those are bad. Those are bad. In particular, I want to talk about the second one. Goalkeepers have so much protection. Why isn't he being brave there? If someone gets in his way, odds are the ref will blow the whistle and protect him. Instead, he just lets like a huge like lump in Keane or whoever else they have, their Braithwaite up there as well. They have Beto up there as well. Let them have a header like 1 meter away from the goal. Like that's just really, really bad decision making. And it's really, yeah, it just wasn't brave at all. And very, I feel out of character. I feel like Leno's decision making in general is excellent, but that was a weird one. What do you guys think?
It's funny because the goal in question, I'm trying to think of the Everton player who's standing on Leno. I think it was the small winger, but I mean, they say it's not a foul, but to me, he is backing into Leno the whole time. He's backing in. For me, Leno's got to go down there, just because something that's always stuck with me from my youth playing days was if you get I was told that I was trying to stay up too much, and then they were just like, if you get hit, if you feel the contact, just go down. And just go down. So for Leno, if he is being backed into, at that point, he's got to just take the brakes off because he's holding this guy up at that point. If you watch it back, he's holding him up kind of thing. If he just takes the brakes off, this guy plummets and takes him into the back of the net. And I think if they then say, oh, we're going to now VAR check this for a potential foul, if you see this player doing arms like this, he's got it round Leno and he's pushing all the way back, and Leno just buckles, they're going to give that a foul every day. And for me, it just seems like Leno is just too fixated on the ball, more so than the Everton player. And he just stands his ground, and therefore, because he's standing his ground, it doesn't look like a foul. But for me, for what the Everton player was doing, it was a foul. But I have to admit, it was really funny to witness in the stand though, because it was always like it went to a VAR check for a possible foul. Then it went to possible offside. It was almost like they were just and this is going back to gripes with VAR. It's like they're just finding faults. They're just trying to find a way not to give this goal, and it was still given. I couldn't believe it. But I mean, I don't know what you think, Mary. Do you think it was a foul, or do you think I'm just saying, oh, he's got to just suck it up and get on with it there?
I do think it was a foul, and I think what you said is right. Like, he should have taken the foul. The risk is, I think that would be given. They do tend to favour the goalie if they're being fouled, but it's obviously a risk because what if they didn't give it? Like, they did look at
get there anyway.
No, true. But yeah, it's just one of those. It's clever from them to be. You've got to put someone on the goalie. It's clever. He's obviously blocked Leno out the game, but it's a set piece again, another set piece, and it just is such a repetitive thing at the moment. And we talked about it last week in After Dark. Like, Everton are good at set pieces. They've scored a lot of them. I think that was their 14th set piece goal now this season. And it's just another one that we've conceded. I can't remember what our stats are with it, but it just feels like every week we are conceding them. And I don't know they obviously do have a plan for set pieces, but I think it's something that next season is a bit late to like change it all now. Well, it's not, but it's probably a bit late to make new plans. But next season we need to really have it as a strength, or just something that we're very solid with, in terms of defending them and scoring them. Because I don't know, it just feels like every week there is a set piece and we're conceding
Can
from
I just
them.
cut in with a question? Zonal or man marking, what do you prefer?
Man marking, I think you've got, it's your player, and then it's your responsibility, and if they score, it's down to you. I can see the benefits of both. There is obviously pros of both, hence people doing them. But I think man marking, especially when you're playing a team that's aggressive, you need to match up player for player and the right sort of player. Put Bassi, put Anderson on those players that we know, Beto, players that are going to get the headers, want to be physical, and match up and just take responsibility for that player. I don't know. What's your thoughts,
Mark?
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to defer to Mary here. I think man marking, at least the zonal system we're playing now, is not working, right? So it either needs to be tweaked or we need to change it. But yeah, as of what we're seeing so far, set plays seem to be really, really effective against us. And it's not even like, you can accept when something happens that's like a moment of pure brilliance, like a De Bruyne shot from 35 yards out. But when we're just screwing up basic defense from corners and free kicks, that's not really European level, is it?
No. And I mean, I just looked at the goal very quickly just to sort of capture the culprits. So you've got Michael Keane at the back post, who probably I would say in the Premier League has got a track record of being an absolute nuisance at corners. The man who's closest to him is Andreas Pereira. That's a mismatch. The second nearest player, the back post, is Adama Traore. Okay, physical, but not known for his, aerial prowess. I'm looking at where Anderson is. I'm looking at where Bassi. They're both just standing in the middle of the goal, and I mean, the middle of the box. Sorry, and I mean, how often are, I would say, corners scored from that area? Probably not as often as a near post flick or a back post header. It just seems like if we're conceding so much from set pieces, why aren't we just going, right, zonal's not working, we need to go to man mark, right, get Bassi on Branthwaite, get Anderson on Michael Keane, wherever he goes you go, I don't care. And Beto, I mean, you could probably have Berger on. It just makes sense if you don't have these mismatches. Like some of these corners that we've conceded this year, you have a look and you're like, oh, who's jumping with, I don't know, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but let's use an example of like Ruben Diaz, okay? One of the best centre-backs in the league. I reckon if you watch a set piece from Man City against Fulham, I reckon you'd probably see ESR jumping with him or some real weird mismatch. And it just baffles me as a fan. And I get that there's these perks of, it's when people talk about playing out of the back when you're in the National League. Yeah, I can see the perks, but we're not good at it. It's just not working. So why would you just stick with it? And especially when in training, if it's working, one, we can't score from corners. Therefore, it probably works in training because we're just rubbish at scoring them. It just seems to be like we need to go back to the drawing board, probably actually get a set piece coach and actually get someone in who actually knows what they're talking about, because we seem to be the only team in the bloody league who doesn't have a set piece coach. I'm happy to be proven wrong here, but it's just baffling. It really is. And then I'm looking at the scoreboard here, and there's 4 minutes between Keane and Beto's goal, but I'm pretty sure that was just VAR. It felt like straight from kickoff. I mean, Mark, what were your thoughts on that goal? That was just atrocious from beginning to end.
Oh, 100%. I think you're right in that it was probably about 30 seconds after kickoff. I was pretty certain, I think most of us were pretty certain the game was done then. Like I didn't see the fight in our team. I mentioned in the previous pod what pissed me off was when, and it's not particular to AP, but AP had a chance. You know, we did our nice thing outside the box. We finally found a space. We saw AP, like, you know, the same as TC does. He needs a second to like gear himself up and line up the shot. And this Everton player comes out of nowhere, slide tackle, times it beautifully, right? Why is that guy showing so much passion? They have nothing to play for. We had a slight glimpse of Europe, a long shot, but it was still there. And the Everton player is putting in more effort with tackles and blocking shots. That is deeply not only confusing but disturbing. And yeah, Beto goes, he shoots. I didn't really have a good view from the Johnny Haynes stand, so I thought it probably was a decent shot given that he's their main man up front. I watched the replay. Leno should be all over that. That is honestly pretty poor from a goalkeeper we know is really good in one-on-ones, really good shot stopper. But that was a relegation level save. That was horrendous and really out of character for Leno.
Yeah, just everything about it. Like the midfield was completely missing. And like you say, it was probably the easiest save that Leno could make of the season. But I'm sure it won't impact him too much. But it's one of those things. Well, funny game, right? It was just if the game wasn't dead and buried, or if the season wasn't dead and buried before that game, it's kind of done now, isn't it? I mean, Mary, there's no real coming back, I think, for the top 8 finish.
Yeah, I think it is done pretty much as it would be a miracle. But I wonder whether the psychology of all that has played a part in the last few weeks, because there has been that added pressure. And I know professional footballers should deal with it. They would have psychology sessions and all that. But I do think that probably has played a part in some sense. And the same with how we've talked about before, we don't deal with, as fans and players, very well with these big decisions. And there was the big VAR. You could see on the pitch, going back to that second goal, when they were doing the VAR, Leno stormed all the way up to the halfway line near enough. He was fuming about it. He was, he looked fuming about it, quite understandably. So it goes back to that psychology. They obviously we conceded again very quickly, but I think the players were probably still raging over that moment, which probably caused a bit of a lack of focus, lack of concentration. And I know we had kickoff, so we should have taken that moment of possession and had the upper hand. But as soon as I watched it back, as soon as we lost possession, I think Berger tried to head it. It went skew with a little bit, and Tete was very slow to react to it, which is when the turnover happened. But I just wonder whether the psychology and the emotion of that whole VAR wait, and it is frustrating. We were frustrated as fans, and then to be as a player, there's so much emotion as well in a competitive situation. So Leno should have done better. He should have, but in his defence, I reckon he was probably still, and a fair few of them still thinking about that VAR decision.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing you talk about as well. Is the pressure on the games. I think, funny enough, Roger, your dad, has just turned up in the chat as well, so welcome in, Roger. But it was something that we spoke about, I think, a couple of weeks ago.
Hi, Dad.
It was something that we talked about, which was Anderson labelled them finals. We've got 7 finals coming up, and it was like we shouldn't have called them finals, because if history's proven one thing, Fulham aren't very good at finals, and that's kind of proving correct at this time. But no, and I think it's a common occurrence as well. The other point that you made, which is the Fulham get hung up on, or the players get hung up on certain decisions and referees and things like that, and whether that's drummed in by Marco because he loves to complain, he loves to really have a go at the ref, but they just seem to lose their heads. And we were talking about this before, that when we concede, we always seem to concede straight after because they just lose their heads and the composure goes out the window. And I mean, Mark, is that a trait from the manager, do you think, or is that just a Premier League professional footballer being passionate about their job?
I think it can be both, right? And the thing is, I have my rose tinted glasses on. I think the decisions that the players get upset about and Marco gets upset about, in my eyes, are completely understandable. I would love to do a deep dive on this and really see. I think we've mentioned before Thomas Frank's Board of Justice. I'm pretty sure we're more unlucky with decisions than we are lucky. Um, but like I said, I'm probably biased. Yes, they should be professional. Yes, they should move on past it. And also we should be more streetwise. Like you said, if Leno's getting backed into and he knows the rules of the game is that if he falls over while being obviously backed into and it's on camera, it would be scandalous. And there's only so many times a referee can get it wrong before he's fired, right? So they're going to try and get it right. Yeah, that's something to consider. But yeah, I think as much as it feels unfair, as much as sometimes the decisions go against us, perhaps on the field is not the time to really show it. You just have to do your best, play your best game, and then you can really contest the decisions afterwards. But I still think at the same time, flip-flopping on this a little bit, you should be allowed to show some like if a really bad tackle comes in and the ref misses it for the third time, you should have your captain really make a song and dance out of it. Just so the ref knows, even I'm not saying he is, but if you do have a ref that is favoring one side or the other, we let them know that we're onto it and make sure the cameras see it as well. But I know that's a bit of a nothing answer, but yeah, we need to be better. We need to be more professional.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Well, we put that one to bed. Everton came, they conquered. We dropped without a whimper, so that's that. Brings us to another game. So we have a game coming up on Sunday, 3 p.m. 3 p.m. kickoff on a Sunday is really weird, but hey, that's what it is. A huge game. Probably one of the fixtures that you look forward to when the fixture list first comes out. And little did we know that, when it came to it, we were hoping this would be the Brentford relegation game, but unfortunately it's not. But it was or should have been coming down to, a real European push for both clubs. And I guess talking about Brentford and the opponents coming up, won, I think, 4 of their last 6 games, or they've at least won 4 in a row. They're unbeaten in their last 6. Draws with Chelsea, Arsenal, beaten Brighton, Forest, Man United, and Ipswich. It's going to be a tough ask, I think, given the recent form where we've completely dropped off. Obviously, we beat Southampton. I think Southampton and Liverpool are our only wins in our last 7 games, which is not great reading, but, forms have got to change somewhere. Mary, going into this game, Brentford, probably the more informed team, probably the one who are just quickly going to spin to the table. The ones who are in the commanding 8th position, they've got to be fancying this, right? And we've got to be really up for the challenge.
We have to be up for the challenge. And we have to remind ourselves and the players it's not over till the last whistle, because we know the absolute scenes of the home game when obviously Wilson absolutely pulled it out of the bag and got us that win. But yeah, they're in great home form, really good. And I think goals galore at the moment. They've scored about 11 goals in the last 4 games. Was it 4-3 against United? And I think they scored 4 in another game as well.
Against Brighton.
Brighton? Yeah, and that's dangerous. We know they've got really good front three and they're all scoring goals. So we're going to be under the cosh a bit, but we've got to start strong. We have to from the start and take the game to them, because they're going to be thinking we are on an absolute downward spiral at the moment of losses and conceding goals and losing from winning positions, things like that. So yeah, we need to start strong and try and hope that maybe the pressure for them of needing the win is something that we can maybe capitalise on a little bit. I do think we are missing Muniz in recent games, and also a game like this is probably a game that Muniz and his character and his footballing ability and the way he plays would be really good for this game. But obviously, we don't have him. But yeah, we need to be strong. We need to be. It would be really good if we can have that Berger Lukic double pivot again. I think we'll need that with their attacking players. So try and stop Wisa and Mbeumo. Don't know if I said them right. They've both got 18 goals each.
Ridiculous,
And
isn't it?
That is absurd.
Is it Sade? Is it?
Yeah.
23-year-old. He's scored about 11. He's scored a fair few in the last few games, so he's another one to watch. So we just need to get some consistency in that back line. But let's hope that we can do the 6 points on them as well and stop their winning streak and get ourselves a bit of confidence for the last 2 games.
And I think, Mark, I'm going to come to you with Jim's question, which is, obviously we care about Brentford as fans, but who on the pitch cares about Brentford? Do the squad actually care? And if so, who do you think would you pinpoint as those people that would get up for the game?
Wow. I would hope Kearney, he's not going to start, but I would hope he could instill some sort of emotion into our squad, because it does feel, and I don't want to name names because it's, you know, like I've said before, that's unhelpful. But I only really see a few people leading by example. I've mentioned Bassey before. I've mentioned Robinson, Leno to a degree as well. But yeah, I would hope that Kearney, if not Kearney, Anderson, who will be starting, to really instill a sense of seriousness in our squad and for us to basically do a reverse Everton. I don't mind if they score first as long as we have 3 completely bullshit janky goals against them where it comes off like Tete's bum or something like that, and that's how we get our equalizer. I would love that. But it's going to be tough. Like you guys said, I'm not a Brentford fan, obviously, so I don't know the names that well. But somehow, yeah, they have 2 wingers with 18 goals. Sade's name is, I think he was pretty absent the first half of the season, but his name is cropping up more and more. Their midfield seems decent. They have a couple of Scandi guys there. I think Damsgaard and Norgard. Apparently Damsgaard is really underrated too. And then Pinnock also seems like a really good center back. So, I guess that's a few of the names. But and I can't I mentioned it on our group chat, but I can't really mock Flecken anymore for being a dodgy keeper after Leno's showing against Everton. So it's looking pretty grim. I hope we really do take it to them. If we do the double over them, there will be some historic moments, beating Chelsea, beating Liverpool. We can look back fondly on this season. It's a season that could have been, but City for me, I know we're jumping ahead, but City for me is always a bit of a throwaway match. So if I had to pick, I'd rather beat Brentford and lose to City than the other way around.
Yeah. No, that's fine. And yeah, Colm has a great point of Cess. Cess has been in the squad. He understands it. He will, yeah, I think he'll be the one up for it. But I do echo Jim's points. You do look out into that team and you just think who's going to really take the game by the scruff of the neck and play to really do anything to get that win. We just seem to be missing that mentality.
I'd like to see in the Chelsea game at home, AP I thought really stepped up. I thought he had really his passion was really evident. He was chasing everything down and pressing everything, and he's not really a leader as such, but his energy can spread across the team, and he did it in the Chelsea game, and I feel like that was because it was a derby and Marcus Silva tried to get them up for it. So I think he's someone that can step up to the plate as well in this game, and if he starts strong, then that will be a good platform for him for the game. But yeah, other than that, I think that's a great point. There's not really leaders that have the same passion as we do, but that's natural. That's always going to be. We're always going to have more passion, but you do need those players embedded in the team that can help drive that as well.
Yeah,
but I think AP, he could be one that rises up to the occasion.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think if you understand, when you sort of look at the dressing room a little bit, as weirdly as it seems, Andreas is one of the kind of vice captains that we don't seem to have an out and out captain really, apart from Tom Kearney. But obviously with his lack of game time and not being on the pitch, there's just no one else. But yeah, he seems to be. I think in the cup he was a captain. I want to say against Watford, I believe he was captain. But yeah, it's just like one of these games is one of those where you're calling out for Reedy, who you just think would be that kind of enforcer, knows what it means to the fans, been around the club long enough to know what the rivalry means and how he can sort of pick up these points. But yeah, unfortunately, I think his season is done. And also coming to the end of his contract as well, which is something I was going to pick up. I'm guessing or not to the end of his contract. I don't think it's out this summer, is it? He signed another 4-year deal, but do you reckon that would be the last that we've seen of Harrison Reed, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, look, there was a link a few weeks ago which I think made a huge amount of sense. It was obviously Scott Parker getting Burnley back to the Premier League, and we know Scott Parker is a very defensive coach, and we know Scott Parker brought Reedy in, and Reedy did a great job. So, if it's actually, I think, a really clever move that works for everyone. Maybe Reedy can get a slight pay bump or at least a longer contract on the same pay. Scott Parker gets someone that is Prem proven, hopefully for us at a decent fee, but he's not going to go for 20-25 million, is he? Right, if we're being honest. So he will go so we can free up some wages and make some money on the side. He will get to play more regular football, and Scott Parker will get a Prem proven defensive player. Because he can hack it in the Prem. It maybe on the lower end, probably not for where we want to be, but for someone that's just come up, I think that's a great fit. So probably if he can get himself fit, maybe he's someone that goes in the summer.
Yeah, it is. I think it would be a shame if it is his last season with us, because the way that it's ended is probably not the most fitting way that he's deserved. I think he got crocked and had to go off, unfortunately. He didn't look very happy when he went off as well. But hopefully we do see him again, at least before he leaves, which would be fantastic. So, I mean, going back to Brentford, though, Mary, their last outing against Ipswich wasn't convincing. I think, like you said, you've seen a lot of... They score a lot of goals, but, a 1-0 win against an already relegated Ipswich side who arguably probably held their own better than the rest of the relegated sides. But, it was 50-50 possession. Ipswich had just as many shots on target, if not just one less. I think there was a few times, I remember Mari Hutchinson hitting the post. That did signify to me that there are some weaknesses in this Brentford team that we could definitely exploit. I mean, do you hold that kind of optimism, or are you quite written off like a lot of the chat at the moment in this stream saying?
No, I'm trying to start positive vibes again. Every week I'm feeling good, and every week I think, no, we can do this. And I do think that the fact that we have no pressure really, there's always going to be the pressure of winning, and it is a big London derby, but the whole 8th place, etc., is pretty much off, which I think Colm said in the chat earlier, made a really good point that actually we don't really have the squad at the moment for getting that next year. But if Brentford get it and have their small squad, then it could help them maybe be a bit lower down or get relegated next year. So I thought that was a good point. But yeah, I found it interesting that Ipswich had 50% possession, because you would assume that they sat back a lot to only concede 1 goal. But I just think structurally we need to be really solid out of possession and know how to deal with their front three and the midfielders that want to be creative and be strong against them, because we're not always... Okay, we conceded 2 open play goals against Everton, but they weren't anything decent, to be honest, and they could have been avoided. But the main thing we're lacking at the moment is that strength for the set pieces. We know that. And when we're up against these players that are scoring 18 goals for Brentford, we have to make sure we don't let them concede that way. because realistically, and I'll probably saying this and tempt fate now, but we're not conceding loads of good goals from open play. They're cheap goals that we're giving away, or like I said, set pieces. So yeah, I am feeling positive. Might be the only one feeling positive at the moment, but we just need to be structurally a bit stronger at possession. I think we missed Lukic the other day. He offers a lot in midfield going forward. So I don't know what the update is on him. I'm hoping he's back in.
I don't think we've had. I think tomorrow is the presser, so hopefully Marco will give us an update on whether Lukic. But last time he did say I think he was a week away. So hopefully he's back. I mean, Mark, do you share the optimism? Are you feeling positive, or are you feeling gloomy? And do you need to take Jim's advice of we need to be more merry?
Wow. Yes, I wish I was feeling more optimistic, but the thing is, we let in 3 goals against an Everton. Maybe we were off color that day as well, but we let in 3 goals against an Everton who they're not the most technical, right? Brentford, I think, are drilled fantastically well, so their execution is gonna be on point. And Thomas Frank is very clever with all the tricks that he plays, right? So whether it's the whatever sub 1 minute goals that he's doing, or whether it's a short throw into the long throw, or whether it's a deeply cynical but highly effective, I think this was from a long throw, going for a ball in the box, knowing full well you can do nothing with the ball, but you touched it first and then you got hit by a stray leg, so you go down like you've been shot. By the rules of the game, the defender missed the ball and got the striker, who was in possession of the ball, even though it was flying out of the box at that point, nowhere near the goal. They're very good at that. So we need to be so much more defensively on it than against most other teams. And that's really what worries me against Brentford.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to your point earlier in the show, which was we don't get these deflected goals. And to me, that's a point which I think Mary made weeks ago, which is we just don't shoot enough. Have a shot. You might get a deflection, you might not. You don't know where. Once it leaves your boot, there's unlimited possibilities of where that ball is going. Just take a dig. But
that's what I like about
Cess
is Cess shoots,
Yeah.
and I think we missed him being higher up in the Everton game, because when he got in those attacking, well, I think there was a chance at the start of the second half where we worked in a little triangle in the edge of the 18-yard box, and then Cess got a shot off straight from that. And I'm sure there was another moment he got a shot off, and he doesn't have that fear. I don't know if it's a fear or what for the other players, but he does seem to shoot. So I really hope Robbo is back for this weekend, so that maybe Cess, if Robbo's back, I would like to see Cess start. I think we all would. But he does shoot. He's one of the only ones I'd say that does.
Well, that's interesting. And remind me, there's a question that we have around that, and I need to remember around Cess. But if I forget, jog my memory about the Cess question. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But I think you're quite right. It's just if the one gripe that I've got with this whole shooting palaver is Berger scored a belter against us last season. I think it was either Burnley or Sheffield United season. But one season he scored a belter against us from the edge of the box, and you watch him, and he's a great carrier of the ball. He's a very great athlete, and he gets to the edge of the box, and he looks to the wings, and he just looks sideways, and you're thinking, that is a man who's been coached and told what to do.
Yeah.
And that is something that really frustrates me, especially from a Marco Silva who is glistening, and his reputation is this score more goals than you, attacking. Mate, if you're in that position, have a shot. Like, I know you're our CDM, and he probably cares more about his stats of turnovers and dispossessions and things like that, but mate, just have a dig. We know that you've got it in your locker. You've done it against us. I think it was even at the Cottage. I think I was there and witnessed it. It was painful. But I'd love to see that for us. for whatever it's worth. And I think the only person who's really been showing that kind of tenacity and a bit more of adventurous side is Bassi. Like he goes on when we had 5 at the back, goes on one of his marauding runs and has a shot, and you're like, Jesus Christ, why can't our centre mids or our midfielders do that? But it just doesn't seem to be happening. So if I have to push you, Mark, prediction, scoreline, what do you reckon?
I'm gonna be overly negative here, in the hopes that karma bites me and makes me look foolish and we win. But unfortunately, I go 2-1 Brentford. I think we can score, and I still maintain Flecken has the limpest wrists, even though weirdly, statistically, he's meant to be really good. But every time I've seen him play, like half the shots we shoot at him, he needs to like bat it down, or it's just weird. I don't rate him, but we have been categorically incapable of keeping a clean sheet, and I think between that and 2 wingers who are absolutely on fire, and Ashada, and the most painful bit will be if Carvalho comes in and scores. But I'm not sure we have this one. Having said that, I hate to say it, but we do turn up against better teams. And right now, in terms of form and league position, they are the better team. So maybe we do the Fulham thing and we randomly turn up and beat them 3-1 that day because we can't do a clean sheet. But That's my prediction. 2-1 Brentford.
Very good. Mary?
Agreed. Don't think we're keeping a clean sheet. We've had, 5 all season? So can't see that happening. But then they're not that much better at them. I think they've had 8 clean sheets this season. So I am going with 1-1. And I mean, draws is the least things we've done this year. But I'm going to go 1-1. I think structurally, our defence is what we need to be really strong on. And I would really like to see Cess playing in that wide position, higher up, so that Robinson's back. I know he's not fully fit. Hopefully the rest helped and he can get through the game. But we do miss Cess's presence up top. So I'm hopeful we can have them in. Lucas back in. We'll go 1-1. Come on, you Whites.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be like a 2-2. I feel like it's going to be a late one, for a late equaliser for Fulham, just because Brentford have been conceding late on in games recently. The Man United game comes to mind. I think they conceded 2 in the late 80th minute / 90th minute, so they're definitely vulnerable towards the end of the game. But I just can't see us really taking the game to them and keeping them out. I just think Mbeumo is just they're just too good, which really begs the question, because when they came to the cottage, they were so passive. They put like 10 men behind the ball, I remember, and we were banging on the door for the whole game. But how did that happen when they had Mbeumo and Vissa? I've got no idea. They both played, I remember it. But whether we were just that good and we've dropped off, given the sort of injuries with sort of Castagna, Robinson, like you say. But yeah, I just think that they're on a high. They're going to be coming for this game, and yeah, a draw is the only thing I can see at best. But yeah, we'll see. There was a tut there. I don't know if Mary was or Mark was about to say something. But
just to jump on your point, I think we were better. We were a lot better, and probably a little bit scarier, right? So maybe Thomas Frank didn't want to go full force at us, especially away. But at the same time, it was probably strategic from him. He knows that we don't do too well against a low block, and was just waiting to hit us on the counter, because I don't know about Whistler. He probably is mad fast as well, but Mbeumo's super fast. So long as they could get us to commit too many of our players up front, they just wait for the right moment. And I do believe they scored pretty early on. It was a great shot from outside the box was it Janelt? I think so. Or it wasn't one of their forward players. It was a midfielder, I think.
Yeah, it was. I want to say, was it like Norgard, was it?
Yeah, but the
Damn,
point is,
damn can't
it
either way,
worked. It worked for them, and then they just needed to sit back, and we huffed and puffed, and then Wilson gave me one of the best memories I'll ever have at the cottage. So that was glorious. But let's do that again. Ideally, not in the 90th minute, but if we do it in the 90th, that's fine.
That is also quite a fun way to crush their European hopes.
I've got something here that will either make you tell me to do one, or will give you a little bit of a butterfly that I just felt after reading it. So I've got the table, for those that are listening on Spotify, I've got the table up, and Brentford are in 8th on 55 points, Brighton are on 55 points, Bournemouth on 53, Fulham on 51 in 11th place. So we've got Brentford. If we manage to beat Brentford, that puts us on 54 points, 1 point behind Brentford. Brighton have Liverpool. Yes, they're on the beach, but they want to pick up as many points as I reckon, and they're still a good team. Even their second team is probably a very, very good Premier League team. Bournemouth have Man City, but they are going to be resting players. I think they're going to be resting players because they've got the cup final coming up. You can see it, can't you? Bournemouth losing to City, Brighton losing to Liverpool, and us beating Brentford. And it's back on.
Hey, everyone getting passports out.
Oh, we buried this. We killed it. We took it behind the shed and we put 2 in the head. Like,
it's taken about half an hour to go from one to the other.
It's back on. If we beat Brentford, it's back on. I'm telling you.
Eze's going to score a brace against Man City, and it will be irrelevant. So no.
Unless Palace win the cup. Come on,
exactly.
Dave. If Palace win the cup, which is never going to happen.
Wow, you say that now.
Testing fate.
Yeah. What's the worst that could happen? Anyway.
We lose Europe, and my best mate gets his team's first silverware. That'd be a fun trip.
Palace lift the cup. That'll leave a real sour taste in my mouth. But anyway, on to probably one of my favourite segments of the show, because this is where we talk kind of what everyone else wants us to talk about. The other 50 minutes is what we want to talk about, but this is actually what you guys want to hear. So you probably all skip to this moment anyway. I will start with the Cess question because it's on my mind. But this was from Mike Levy from Fulham Boston. He says, do we need to explore a potential backup left back, considering if Jedi stays? Because Cess provides such good coverage further up the pitch that we're actually losing out by, I think, Mary, you made this point of when we put Sessegnon back at left back, we lose probably one of our only most adventurous players who actually takes a shot. So if Jedi stays, is a left back going to be an option in the summer due to that reason? And Mary, I'll come to you for that one.
It is, yeah. In short, yes, but there is other options for if Robinson can't play, for example. Let's say he is then.
Well, let me put it this way. Would you prioritise it? Or are you still happy with Cess being a backup left back? Or would you prefer Cess to always be available on the wings?
I think Cess is better on the wings. He just provides that added. It's good to have him as an option there, but we should have a left back that really could play there. So that Cess can always be available. Or the alternative is Cess is always available and we have more depth up top. We obviously had Nelson out. That didn't really help the situation because we have lost out a bit there. Wilson being out for a while, we lost out, which I do think has been a big thing. Our injuries has played a part, and I know every team can probably say that to some degree, but having Wilson out for a long period of time and Nelson and now Muniz is a big difference. But yeah, we need some cover there so then Cess can be up, but equally we need more depth up the top. So I haven't really answered the question in one way or the other.
I'd like to jump in. I have a random thought, but I think this could be quite cool. I know we hate it, but in theory it works. If we could find a way to make 5 at the back work, can you imagine how terrifying our attack would be with Nelson and Cess on the same wing? And we just have Bassi slot into that left position. that could be quite interesting. So it's not a must-have for me. I think it'd be good to get one, but I think Cuenca can play there. I think Bassi can play there, and Castagna can play there. Now, obviously, Castagna question marks. It's not his, I guess, preferred side.
Plays left back for Belgium, though.
Right. Yeah. So it could work. But I would like to see a world where, yeah, we both have Cess and another winger on the attack. I think that'd be terrifying.
And on that point as well, I'm still adamant that a 5 at the back with Kenny Tete as the right wing back would be better than any 5 at the back that we've seen this season. Just because we've played Castagna there and he's just not as attacking. I think if you had Cuenca, Bassi, Anderson, Diop, with Jedi as a left wing back or Cess, with Tete as the right wing back, I think that is a way more attacking and a bit more effective 5 at the back than what we've seen previously. But yeah, it's an interesting point, and I love the fact that all the comments on the stream had their own answers as well. So, you know, Roger saying Castagna can play left back, so no, not ideal, but an option. You know, Jim was thinking about left back. Bassi can do it. Cuenca could do it. So I think and Dave says the Jedi doesn't miss many games. So I think the collective is we don't bring in a backup left back just because we feel like we are covered without impairing Cess's forward thinking. But, you know, under Marco, he just loves to put him left back. An additional question from Mike, which I will answer myself. This is also hypothetical. It never happened. But how does Skibby deal with hangovers? Does he have a family recipe cure? No, I don't. My Sunday was written off, and hypothetically and allegedly was written off. So there's that answer. And I will not be answering any more questions on the matter. Anyway, so other questions that we have, there we had a lot in the Discord, some fun ones as well. I'm concerned about our current form. Do you think this is down to Silva being around his actual future at the club, Mark?
Yeah, I think the different staff, players, and manager feed off of the energy from each other, right? And what I mean by that is when Europe was a very real possibility, and yes, I understand mathematically it's still possible, but
It's
7
happening.
games ago, wish I had your enthusiasm and belief. But yes.
Probably still drunk.
Marco is probably really down on that. And he's probably down on the fact that we shouldn't even be here. And what I mean by that is we should be higher, right? The Beto last-minute goal, the Danny Ings last-minute goal, dropping points against the first Southampton match, not being able to get a win against Ipswich. Like, I know they weren't crap. I know they put up a good fight. But, like, on balance, we should have at least one win. United were terrible. West Ham were terrible. Yes, we've had these brilliant moments where we've outplayed really good teams like Liverpool, like Chelsea, a draw with Arsenal at the Cottage. Incredible stuff. But at the end of the day, a point is a point, right? So I'd rather, instead of everyone praising us and saying, wow, it was incredible that you drew against Arsenal. They're like, they're such a good team and they play such beautiful football and they have great players. Why don't we just beat like Man United when they're terrible? That's much more valuable. So yeah, stuff like that. I think that's probably gotten into Marco's head. We know he's very ambitious. We saw on the Discord as well that the rumor is that he's felt he's done as much as he can with the squad he's been given. So yeah, and maybe the players sense that, right? They sense that the manager's just a little bit put out. He isn't really. I know. I assume he's a professional and he's still doing the best he can. He still has a game plan and things like that. But I think you can tell from the body language and things like that. So probably they're feeling the knock-on effects of that. And I really hope, for the sake of all of us included, right, the fans, that we get an idea of whether Marco will stay and be backed, because there's no point of him staying and signing another 3 years and the Khan saying, great, our spend every season will be net 50 or 60. He wants higher, we want higher. Everyone, I understand it's a sustainability thing, but everyone wants this club to succeed. His future needs to be sorted out sooner or later.
Yeah, and I think there was a really worrying point in the Discord, which was around wages over turnover. They wanted to be the Khans want it's currently reduced from 126%, I believe, to around 80. The Khans want it to be lower than 76. So it's almost as if they're not going to be allowing more resource, put it that way, for us to improve, which is a bit scary. And I think so. That question was from Billy. Sorry, I didn't call you out there, Billy, but I think there's also another point there which Dave's really cleverly mentioned, which is every season under Marco, we seem to fall off around March. So it just doesn't seem to be the current speculation around Marco's future. But Mary, I mean, every time we seem to get to March, we seem to really drop off and never really finish that strongly. I mean, does that come down to fatigue, I guess, or
could be fatigue? And my other thought is, are we getting found out, and then are we not coming out of plan B, plan C, and just adapting, like when we need to adapt, whether that's on during the games or ahead of the games or at half time, whatever it is. And I just wondered whether that's what it is, because like you said about Brentford, when we played them at home, they were probably like Mark said, maybe hoping to counter us, but also maybe we were on quite a good run and we were started the season probably stronger than we thought, and we were looking really strong when we were in attack, especially on that left, and looked really threatening. But now we come to this stage and people have worked us out a lot more. There's obviously a lot of analysis on teams, so I wonder whether near the end of the season, okay, this year we've had a lot of injuries as well, and I do think that has played a part when you think about the key players that have been injured. But yeah, do we really have a plan B, plan C? I don't really see it. I know we bring subs on and we try that way, but I don't know. That's where my thoughts are sort of going, as well as fatigue. But then every team can say that. Every team will get fatigue, and that is 100% a factor in football. Whether that's during the game, you get fatigue physically, mentally. It's tough to concentrate and focus on every single second, and you have to train yourself to do that during the games. But there is also the fatigue at the end of the season. But every team gets that, so we've got to sort of look a bit deeper into that.
And just to jump on Mary's point as well, when we talk about injuries, not just injuries that take players out, right, like Muniz right now or Lukic or Nelson, but Castagna and Robinson playing through injuries. That's why Robinson was so good the first half of the season, because he didn't have that injury, right? So, 10 assists by January, early Feb. It's incredible, but we couldn't keep it up. And Castagna had to play because Tete was out. So I think that's a big part of it as well. Yes, we're stubborn, or Marco's stubborn, and we have the same game plan. We get found out and fatigued, but we also playing players who are probably playing at 80%, 85%. And in this league, that's a big difference.
Yeah, I don't think you should play players in any league that have injuries, really, because also for their well-being, we're just making it worse. So I think that's a really good point, that it's definitely had an impact. And if other teams are working out as well that they're injured, then they can try and pounce on that a little bit. But it just goes back to, have we got enough depth in our squad? Because we shouldn't be playing players that are injured or have little niggles or anything. But when you don't have a replacement, Marco has got a bit of a challenge there. So it's something that we know they need to build on for next year, is that depth in our squad, so that we can give players a rest when they're injured, and then they can actually play at full fitness and have the impact that we know they could.
Yeah, no, it's definitely. I think definitely the injuries have impacted us, but then again, it hasn't been that publicised for the last couple of years, so I'm not sure whether it has affected us, but who knows. I think Jimmy D asked, last season we finished 13th, this season we could finish as low as 12th. Has it been much more of an improvement, Mark?
Yes and no, which is once again a bit of a throwaway weird answer.
How's that fence feel, Mark?
I love sitting on it. It's very comfortable. I feel much like capitalism, because I work for a US corporation. Marco is being asked to do more and more with less and less, right? And I've mentioned it before, losing Mitrovic, losing Polina. Yes, we've replaced them, but we haven't really upgraded on them. We've kind of found another way that works. So I don't want to criticize Marco, because I think we've done a great job. I would argue, in general, we overperform. We overperform in a weird way, because we tend to do better against teams that are better than us with bigger budgets, and we don't know how to deal with the low block and the very defensive teams that are lower than us. And I think that's a frustrating point. Instinctively, you think, well, when we can beat a Liverpool or Chelsea, that means we can beat anyone on our day, right? So we should be near the top. But then we clearly can't beat everyone, because we draw to Southampton and we lose to like a completely mauled Wolves, and we lose to a completely mauled and dysfunctional Man United. So that's a frustrating thing. We can see the potential, and we can see the team really pushing hard and being greater than its individual pieces, but we don't have that little extra, whether it's luck, whether it's more money, like more quality, whether it's a deeper squad. We just don't seem to have that final piece that gets us into that position where, quite frankly, Forest are, right? I think, yes, they've done well. Yes, they have an identity. They care. But I would argue they have had way better luck than us, and a little bit more spending. So have we improved? We've improved, but that's because we've improved, but it doesn't show, because the league is relentless and the league is always improving. So even though we've done a little bit better with less, we're still pretty much in the same position. That's how I see it.
Yeah. To be honest, I have nothing to add. I think you're spot on. Even though I joked that you're on the fence, I think you're right. You are right. I mean, Mary, anything to add to that?
No, spot on again, and it's spot on.
Easy.
Thanks, guys.
There you go.
You did well sitting on that fence.
I wish my wife would agree with stuff I
said. Wait,
you may have
did
just
you
dug
start your
yourself a
arguments?
deeper hole if she's listening.
Yeah, you just need to start your arguments with, I'm a capitalist, right? Just start your arguments with that. I'm sure you'll be fine.
Listen, our lifestyle, we've overachieved with what we have, okay? We're going into debt.
Yeah. If you want to hear more about Mark's TED Talk of how to win arguments with your other half, then please stay tuned and follow us on X. I think the next question is from Spanish FFC Ultras, which I believe is our own Steve. Adama, Raul and Wilson shows the Khans are spending bugger all again by triggering their options on their contracts, keeping the oldest squad in the Prem. It's not really a question, but I will mould it into a question. Mary, do you feel like here we're just trying to keep the core squad together to give us the best experience going forward, or do you think we're trying to do the smart, very non-Fulham thing, which is triggering the option because now we know that we can now charge a fee for said players?
That is a good point. I like to see it in the way that we're trying to keep a core squad and build on it, in the hope that we are going to build on it. I like all those players. I know they've been on and off this season. Jimenez, penalty taker, we've still got him on board. So that is nice and good to have for the penalties that we sometimes get, which we didn't mention actually in the Everton game. But moving on, he has scored goals for us. We need Muniz to be able to get opportunities though. So I'm hopeful that even though we're keeping it going and extending it, Muniz can still get opportunities to become that first striker. But yeah, I think it's so important to have experience, and we see it on the pitch this year when we haven't got that leader or the group of leaders on the pitch. It's sometimes in those key moments when you need that person to drive it, or that person to just slow it down or break up play, whatever, those clever moments that experienced players have. It's really important to have them. So I'm going to see it from the way that we're building with an experience that know how Marcus Silva is playing, and they can help mould other people into that. But yeah, Wilson's got more to add. Jimenez, we know what he's about. And Adama has been a bit of an up and down this season, but he's got great value as well. But there's a lot to be said about having experience and people that know the system. We're not starting all over again.
Yeah. And I think I'm going to come to Mark, but I know he's going to echo this point of I would love Raul to be the new Vinicius, but 100 grand a week for your third choice striker just seems a ridiculous amount for me. But hey, I mean, Mark, your thoughts on the three getting new 1 year added to their contract?
Yeah, I don't think we're a team that, I know we did it with Anguissa, which was good that we got something, even though we lost money.
Like 12 million loss, but there you go.
Yeah, we took a loss, but it was a 12 million loss instead of a 25 million loss or something. But yeah, it wasn't good. Honestly, the only one of those three, I know this sounds harsh, and I'm not saying they are not good footballers. I think they are. I don't think we use Traore correctly. I don't think we are going to use him correctly next season. I hope I'm wrong. If we did, then it's worth it, but we won't, so I don't think it will be. I'm happy for Wilson. I was proven wrong. Start of the season, I said get rid of him. He's not been useful for us. He's come up. He brings something a little bit different in that he is a bit more direct. He cuts in and shoots, and he has a wand of a foot, so that's useful, and he's direct. But Raul, I think for a third string striker, it doesn't make sense. I know I'm probably going to get half of Mexico on my back here. He is a supremely talented player, but he's just not clinical enough to be on third choice 100K. Yes, he does penalties, but an argument I often make to my friends, which is overly simplistic, but I think Fulham aren't at the level where we should be looking too far beyond the core role of the player. So what I mean by that is like when my Arsenal buddies are like, but Ramsdale and Raya's distribution is incredible. Well, for us, we just want a goalkeeper that stops shots, right? That's your core role. I don't care if the striker has a great penalty record. He needs to get goals consistently. And if we can deploy that 100K a week to someone else, I would be more in favor of that. However, the club's made the decision it's made. I think what we can do now is we have to be as supportive as possible because getting on players' backs is pointless. And yeah, I wish I saw a little bit more ambition from the club. But for me, Wilson, yes. Traore, maybe leaning towards yes. And Raul would have been a maybe leaning towards no.
I mean, give it time. We know that there's a lot of admiration for Adama in Turkey. So maybe we're looking to, because we picked up Adama for free. Maybe we are looking for that profit and we could get a £5-6 million bid from someone in Turkey for him, and then that gives us a bit of leeway when it comes to financial fair play. I mean, I think I'd like to see what happens to the squad come the first game of next season. I think that's when I'll make my judgments, because if Raul is the best striker that we could potentially get right now, then yeah, definitely tie him up. But if we find that there's options in July, August that now fit the bill, and then we can find a loan for Raul somewhere else with an option to buy, frees up the wages, doesn't it? I think it's just better to do those options, because normally I believe then, this is just me from my football manager head, I don't think they're like that mutual, if that makes sense. I think the club can trigger the option and it happens, that you're kind of stuck with it because it's written in. So I think the club have just triggered it, keeping the assets, and then see what happens. So I wouldn't read too much into it, but I am really happy for Wilson. I think he's proved a lot of people wrong. Adama and Raul, I think there's a lot of, could be some movement if I'm not mistaken, but I do think that 100K, especially with all the rumblings, like I said, the rumour mill is in full swing, and there's a lot of talk about marquee signings, strikers and wingers, and I do feel that, Raul does hinder our striking options a little bit. If there's like a lot of people aren't going to come in and say, well, you've got Raul on your books on 100k. Is he really going to be lower in the pecking order than me? I think that's going to raise a lot of questions. And that's what happened with right back in January with Tete and Castagna, and a lot of right backs didn't want to come in because they didn't want to be third string come the summer. So, you know, that's another point that's probably going to play, and would have to be promising some new incoming players that they will be higher than Adama and Raul should they make that move. But it'll be an interesting time come the summer, I think. Last question I wanted to quickly touch upon. I know we are running on quite over, but TC to Wrexham, an interesting development has come out today. Obviously, there's a new contract on the table for him to sort of bring him into his 10th year, but Wrexham obviously going into the Championship have offered reportedly around 50k a week, which is actually an improvement on his current Fulham deal, which is unbelievable. Is that something you can see happening, Mark?
Yeah, so the interesting thing about the deal is more complicated than it looks, I believe. And what I mean by that is, yes, there's more money at Wrexham. Yes, he gets more visibility at Wrexham. We know he wants a media career after this, and he's already sort of dipped his toe in it, right? And he's very good at it. So it's more visibility and it's more money. But does he want to? Yeah, but does he want to go out there and put himself at risk? If that makes sense, it's going to be more games. It's going to be more physical. If he ends up looking off the pace, it's not going to be a good look. Whereas he could. I would say Fulham is the safe option, right? He has a contract in front of him. He'll make less money, but he'll play a lot less games, and he'll play less. And he can just like still be the face of the club, still see it out, and then go straight into his media career. I don't know. I guess he would lean towards Wrexham, but I just think there is, it's not as clear cut as like, obviously he'll take more money and go straight to Disney Plus.
Mary, similar thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like something's definitely happening because I've seen it on Twitter or X, whatever it's called now, the documentary thing. So they're obviously building up to something, whether that's him leaving playing and going into the media, which, like Mark said, we know he's been getting into this season. So he will be going into that at some point, or whether he'll go to Wrexham. They're obviously saying there's talks. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of talk at this time. Same with Marcus Silva, and I know there is questions around whether the paper talk is right or not with him and Spurs links, etc. But yeah, when TC, I just think the documentary thing is interesting that they mentioned about that. It feels like he is leaving in some capacity, whether that's leaving football or leave to be in the media or leaving Fulham completely. I know he's doing 10 years, so maybe it's just a documentary for that, but I don't feel like it is.
I disagree with Mark a little bit. I do feel like he won't. It's a physical league, but you watch what Seri did in that league, where he had a lot more time on the ball. It worked in his favour. Seri didn't necessarily have the legs, but he would pick a pass and do these outrageous assists. And I think TC would adapt. I think he'll sit deeper. I think he'll sit in front of that back four, not particularly protect them, but just be that calmness on the ball in a league that he knows very, very well. I can see it happening. And for him to, like you say, amplify his image for punditry reasons and for media career, get more minutes, and also, I mean, Wrexham's probably got to be one of the most attractive projects out there at the moment, outside of the Premier League. So if I was TC, I think I'd be really considering it. And I think it will work in his favour, and good luck to him whatever he chooses. But obviously I'd love for him to stay, but I do feel like he hasn't really got the legs, and I just feel like he's a bit of a number at the moment. Even when he comes off the pitch, he's not really helping the team. Love TC to bits, but I just feel like he hasn't really had the same impact that he has in other seasons. But yeah, interesting. I mean, I'm going to call it there. We've run over a little bit, but obviously there was a lot of I mean, the contract stuff impacted us a little bit coming in the last minute, so we had to squeeze that in there. So, no, it's been a fantastic show. Everyone, thank you very much for your comments, and but more importantly, Mark, thank you very much for your time, mate.
Always a pleasure, Skibby. We will meet at the Old City Arms again, I'm sure, at some point. I don't know if I'll match your goal tally, but I'll do my best.
Yeah, my goal difference is plus a lot at the moment. So yeah, definitely need that coming down a little bit. But definitely. Mary, thank you very much for your time tonight.
No, thank you. It's been good. I've enjoyed reading the comments as well. It's been really, there's been a lot going on in there, so it's really helpful. We enjoy it. So thank you for being involved in the chat. And anyone going to the game on Sunday, bring it, give it large at the little bus stop club, and let's go and get something from it. I don't think many people or many odds will be in our favour for winning or getting a point, but big derby. I know the fans will get up for it. So yeah, let's see what happens.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, I'm going to sign off on a bit of a sad note that unfortunately we lost one of our own today in Cliff Dean. I know a lot of people around the club know Cliff. Just a real Mr. Fulham, home and away. Would watch them on Saturdays and then go watch the rugby league when we had, I think it was the London Broncos at the Craven Cottage. He would be down there. Just very much bled black and white if you cut him. So he will be sorely missed, and I'm sure all the fans going down to Brentford will sing extra loud just for Cliff and Dean, and obviously thoughts go down to family and friends. But no, very sad news to end on, and but hopefully the boys do the business for Cliff on Sunday. Everyone, thank you very much again for your time tonight, and yeah, hopefully we pick up the win against the rivals, and that European dream is still on because I've done the math. So let's see, let's see if it all comes true. Anyway, that's all from us, and as always, come on, you whites.
You.